Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the Thanksgiving special Godfest that has just gone live in North America. So this is a special kind of Godfest because we can't call it a Super Godfest because Super Godfest costs 10 magic stones and feature approximately 1 out of 3 or greater rolling rates for Godfest exclusives. And in the case of this Thanksgiving Godfest, it only costs 5 magic stones. So for a discount of 50%, you have actually a 20% chance of rolling any Godfest exclusive. Now, of course, math is not always going to work out in your favor, but in the long run, you should come out ahead from a Godfest exclusive point of view. But perhaps to offset this, there are less collateral benefits, like the cards don't come out as evolved, there's no pluses. And for a player who has a much deeper monster box and playing for a prolonged period of time, those collateral benefits are probably meaningless. But if you're a newer player, it's probably going to be problematic potentially because you could have beforehand been able to roll essentially what is a complete team. You can use it right away. Whereas here, you'd actually have to invest in them. So again, that is a bit of a drawback, but in the long run, this is a better place to spend your magic stones if you're looking for a pure trade fodder point of view. Furthermore, this Godfest will also feature the debut of a brand new 7-star transforming Godfest exclusive, Yurisha. So let's take a look at the rolling lineup. So there are obviously Godfest exclusives featured. So there are 7 and 6-star Godfest exclusives, and the total between all of them is 20%. Now, the value of any Godfest will come down to what the rolling pool features, and your individual monster box will greatly differ from mine, and in turn, the things that you want, need, or desire will also change. As such, you need to look at this lineup and determine, are these cards something I'm actually going to be happy with, or are they just going to be kind of like trade fodder, or would I actually end up using them? That really comes down to your own personal needs and goals, but with that being said, let's take a look at Yurisha to possibly give you a bit better idea of what to expect. So this Peacock individual has no skill boost in her base form, but at least there's a skill bind resist, and it takes 18 turns to transform. Pretty standard overall. And once transformed, she has solid VDP damage, lots of time extend. She has the ability to create 6 fire, 6 dark, and heal orbs, along with 1.5 times orb movement time on a 4-turn cooldown. So that is wonderfully powerful. And I forgot to mention that in her base form, she does provide a 7x6 board. So when you enter the dungeon, you'll have 7x6, and in turn, you'll be playing with 7x6. So what's good with this individual here as well, that active skill, she has reliable VDP damage, she does give you solid leader skill multipliers, and a larger board. But the biggest drawback of her as well, she doesn't obviously provide any skill boosts in her base form, so you need to find 18 skill boosts. Small hurdle to overcome, but something you need to be aware of nevertheless. But it's the fact that her leader skill and the way it procs and triggers, and that is going to be problematic, because you need to match an L, a fire or dark L. It's not any element, it has to be fire or dark. So even though with the 7x6 board it should be a bit easier, it's still going to be problematic because damage output may be quite stressed. And you also have to remember she has no auto follow-up attack, no bonus combos, and generally speaking, L matching can be more cumbersome and frustrating. And this is probably going to be the most polarizing aspect of this card, is the fact that many players may not necessarily want to play with Ls. And with 7x6, you are inadvertently punished with Alt Arena 4, Arena 6, or Sure Realm, where there are spawns that give extra mechanics if you use 7x6. It's not to say that you cannot pass the dungeon or clear against those, but it's more so it's going to be an extra stepping stone you need to overcome in order to clear the dungeon. And remember, I feel like as a whole she requires quite a bit of effort but not that much reward, because her personal damage is non-existent unless you match a VDP. So that's going to be quite orb hungry. Even on 7x6, having 9 dark orbs is not always possible. And again, if you didn't have, say, enough fire orbs, you might have to have 14 dark orbs. There's a lot of problems there. You also need to be aware of that when you need to have follow-up attack, you're probably going to have to make that column of hearts. Again, you're just eating up into lots of board space, lowering your average combo count. And while these multipliers are strong, I feel like it's not necessarily worth as much. It's more thought intensive to play compared to the other currently available options. The key heroes are obviously infinitely stronger as a whole, and they're much easier to play by comparison. Furthermore, Yurisha is also restricted to only physical and attacker types, so you do have the RCV being comically high, so you don't have to worry about healing, but again, the types of cards you can bring can become a little restrictive as well. And what research I was able to look at for like JP stuff, like she can clear any dungeon in the game, but it seems like it requires quite a bit more effort, work, and investment. Like I've seen pairing with Fatalis because Fatalis likes to match L's anyways, so you do get extra bulk because one big issue is she has low bulk and Fatalis has huge bulk. So that means if you need to match things, you need to have dark L's every single time, and that will be problematic. At least it has overlap with her leader skill activation, but at the same time, it's going to be still a little chunky and cumbersome. So it still can clear content, but I feel like it just requires more effort as a whole. So, to roll or not to roll. As mentioned beforehand, Super Godfests have a 10 Magic Stone cost and a 33% chance or greater to roll any Godfest exclusive. And that should be kind of the benchmark or the norm that we base all future events off of. For this Thanksgiving event, it costs only 5 Magic Stones, so you get double the rolls. And double the rolls is important because if you're trying to build up your monster box, you get to roll twice. You might be disappointed twice, but at least you have 2 times the disappointment instead of just a single disappointment. And with the way how odds work, I know math is not always going to work out perfectly for 20%, but in a large enough sample pool, you should come out ahead. So, for example, let's say you have 100 Magic Stones to spend. You spend all 100 in this Thanksgiving Godfest. You get 20 rolls, and you expect a 20% Godfest exclusive. So, you should, in theory, acquire 4 Godfest exclusive. Of course, this is not going to be always the case, but that's just kind of the general idea of what you're working with. And at the same time, you have 4 Godfest exclusives, 16 Pantheons. For a regular Super Godfest, you get 10 rolls, and you can expect 3.3 Godfest exclusives on average. Of course, 0.3 doesn't really exist, but let's say you get 3 Godfest exclusives, you have 7 Pantheons. Well, you have way less Pantheons and less Godfest exclusives, so you came out behind here. Let's say you get the 3.3 rounds up somehow. Now you get 4 Godfest exclusives, 6 Pantheons. You have the same number of Godfest exclusives, but you have 10 less Pantheon cards. You're coming out ahead in this Thanksgiving event, but just be aware you don't get the extra pluses, you don't get the extra evolutions, but for a player with a more developed box, this should not be an issue. Perhaps the main drawback of this event is that the featured cards may not necessarily be as desirable. I feel like as a whole, this event is much more suited towards trade fodder because many of these Godfest exclusives, they're nice to have, but they're not as powerful as some of the other ones that are absent in this event. So, at least for myself, even though I feel like the roster itself is not that great, the rolling rates are strong, and because I didn't roll that much in Sin Dragon Key Heroes, I managed to get basically the stuff I wanted within relatively few rolls. I have extra Magic Stones, and for myself, I will never say no to more trade fodder. So I plan to roll at least a modest amount in this event because it's a good place to stock up on trade fodder, and at the same time, I'll get extra Pantheon cards. So I get more misses, but hey, they still might have some value in the future or whatnot. So, in conclusion, this Thanksgiving Godfest features stronger rolling rates for Godfest exclusives because it eliminates the extra fluff. There's no bonus pluses, there's no bonus evolutions, there's no extra awakenings. Like, it's just, you have to invest in the cards yourself. But if you've been playing for a long time, you should have a great deal of resources stockpiled. You might have lots of pluses, Tamadras, and Monster Evolution lying around, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. On the other hand, if you are a brand new player, you do get to populate your monster box, but you won't have ready-to-use cards as easily. Again, I feel like it's still a worthy trade-off. I was never a huge fan of those extra fluff collateral benefits. I rather just take pure rolling rates or discounts instead. Either way, let me know what you think about this event in the comments below. Do you think it's worth rolling in? And if you did roll, let me know how it turned out, along with how you feel about Yurisha. Do you think she's a strong new Godfest exclusive, or do you feel like she's just a little bit more lackluster overall? Either way, hopefully all a Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.